The scene opens this evening. New serum. As per usual in the early spring, it's a rather rainy night. Wind is minimum. Despite that, it's still a bit on the cold side. Definitely wet, damp. And Stefan has just kind of sought shelter under an awning in the middle of the downtown district, and he recalls a number that he was given to by one of his two Nosferatu contacts. He figures, well, I suppose better sooner than later. And proceeds to pull it up and dial Mr. Jones.
Kai will be just at his work in Little Italy, working at the open casket. It seems to be a fairly quiet night, but as his phone rings, he stays in his seat and answers it, attempting to be quite discreet in the corner where he's usually sat. Jones here.
Mr. Jones, I know this number is definitely not recognized by you. I recently had a meeting with a mutual contact in the projects.
Oh, right. Who might you be talking about?
A interesting and intelligent young woman by the name of Mort.
All right. I know Mort. What's she done this time?
No. She has not done anything at all. I actually contacted her because, well, I'm in a little bit of a pickle. Well, I was following a lead, and she led me to believe that you would be good for making further contacts within your special extended family.
Look, currently I'm at work, but I can meet you after my shift. Work in Little Italy, so meet me outside the Open Casket restaurant, bar and grill. Do you know where it is?
Oh, yeah. I have passed by that. I actually don't live too far.
All right. Well, I'll see you just outside in maybe an hour.
Sounds good. I will see you then.
All right. See you. And Kai will cut off.
About this time, there's a slight break in the precipitation. Slows down to barely a drizzle. Well, shit. And he begins to move more towards the north of the downtown district from where he is currently. Seeing as it's going to be probably 6-7 blocks before he reaches the edge. He begins moving. Taking a cab at least. At some point during the middle of the trip to the edge of the downtown district, he calls a cab.
Kai will work through until the end of his shift, which ends just as the restaurant shuts. around 11 o'clock. It's not a particular it's not more well known for its food than its drinking, so it doesn't stay open generally too late. And as he doesn't need to stay back and clean up or anything, he will walk out of the building after saying his farewells to the regular staff, and walk a couple of doors down the street before leaning up against one of the walls and looking from one side to the other, waiting for a pedestrian or car to come up and introduce themselves. He will assume that this person has been given at least a vague description of what he looks like and will be able to recognize him on sight. If not, recognize the fact that there's one person loitering next to the open casket bar and grill on an otherwise fairly empty street.
Let's see. Takes about, I'm gonna say, 25 minutes past past the open casket's closing for the night.
Just at 11 o'clock.
A taxi cab is one of the older style, like, checker cabs that pulls up just in front of the open casket. Out of the back of the car after paying the cab driver, steps appears to be more Germanic, about 5'10", lean, but not like skin and bones. There's some muscle definition here and there. Very well dressed, very well groomed. And seeing as there's only one person on the street, he approaches that person.
That person is standing up to attention as soon as this cab drops someone off outside the open casket. Almost half an hour after its closing time, he has to assume that this is the person he's been waiting for. Kai will stand a full 6.5 feet up, fairly wide shoulders, well built, in a blazer and just a open collared shirt, some smart trousers, but he looks fairly sort of plain faced. He definitely doesn't look, he's not much of a looker, but he carries with him an air of confidence that sort of follows him around. And indeed, this time he doesn't look particularly pleased. He's been kept waiting. It's although he doesn't feel the cold, he has been just kept waiting in the street. And whether or not Stephen will notice this, he's not pissed off. But he did say an hour, and it's been a little bit more than that. And he'll approach Stephen.
As Stefan does approach, he will try to get the cut of Kai. Try to gauge by face mannerisms, what kind of mood he's in, what kind of person maybe, if possible. So we'll go ahead and make a perception empathy. Fair to say two successes, possibly.
With 2 successes, it's easy to say that this person is fairly businesslike. He probably wouldn't be much for sort of at least starting small talk. Although he might carry it on, he would rather sit and drink his drink in a bar in peace rather than sort of going around and joining someone else's table. And it's safe to say that, although not angry, he may be slightly frustrated at potentially. You imagine having waited a short while out on the street. What you would also be able to notice is that whereas the kindred you've met have rather pale, if you assume Kai isn't. He is, I'm not going to say he has rosy cheeks, but indeed there is, it's not a pale pallor to his skin.
When he notices that that there's a flush, Stefan will likewise emulate that flush, so that it's not off-putting. And Mr. Jones, I presume.
That's me. And Kai will put out his hand to be shaken.
Takes his hand. Gives a business-like handshake.
Yep, Kai's will be slightly sort of firmer than business-like. It will be not. It won't be outwardly crushing, but you rise up to it. There will be a challenge for a test of strength there.
The handshake from me will not be challenging. I will definitely give a sign of relenting on this because it's smart.
That's fair enough.
I do apologize for being quite some time late. Some cabs are just not as reliable.
That's perfectly alright. Regardless, you called me. What's this about then?
Let us take a look. A little bit from here, as he kind of notices that there's still some activity in the open casket as people are closing.
Well, if you walk, Kai will follow.
I recently got back in contact with Mort. It has been some time. And I recently found out that a particular person I am looking for had less than amicable dealings with a Mr. He reaches into an inner breast pocket of his sport coat he's wearing tonight. Mr. Ivanov.
I know the name, heard it before.
Now, what I was told I will consider rumor. I would not want to pass along such things. It would not be conducive of etiquette. But I was wondering if perhaps, based on what wonderful things I have heard about you from Mort, actually, yeah, I'm not exactly telling the whole truth here. So I'm just gonna make a manipulation subterfuge.
I believe. Well, it depends if you're trying to manipulate me, but for the most part, yes.
I'm not being entirely truthful. You know, I'm kind of trying to inflate your ego.
Oh, fair enough. I'll just go for a perception empathy, just
Okay.
because why not?
Yeah, you are entitled to that.
And no, that's a fail. So he'll be susceptible potentially.
Okay. If you could assist me in possibly setting a meeting with Oleg.
Well, I understand you're a friend of Mort, but now, Mr. Ivanov is a busy man, you see. I'd have to clear it with him before I say anything. Might not be best to go to me about it. I'm not exactly closest to him as could be.
Fair enough.
But what was this concerning anyway? He would want to know if I went to him anyway.
Concerns a man by the name of Warner. It is nothing personal toward Mr. Ivanov, and given as I am not familiar with where he is in the chain, I figured I might as well try to play it safely and work up that chain. I am also quite willing to meet him on his familiar ground under his terms.
Well, he'd still want to know, at the very least, he'd want to know a little bit more about you before meeting. Now, I will say this, as I said, I'm not the closest person to him. So, I understand you may not feel compelled to be completely honest with me, but trust me, the more I know and the more I can tell him, the more it'll help. And at this point, Kai is, if you'll allow, going to attempt a manipulation and intimidation roll to attempt to sort of more or less force you into telling more of the truth than you otherwise would.
Mundanely?
Sorry?
Mundanely?
Yeah, he's just going to be sort of. He's. I imagine that you're not 6'6" in character.
No. 5'10".
Then yeah, he's going to be sort of trying to be as imposing as possible. He'll sort of stand over you a little bit and just say, "Look, you're going to need to tell me more than that, because I know Oleg, you don't know Oleg. Look who holds the power here," type thing. As much physical as any.
Catching that out of the corner of his eye while walking alongside him, just gonna make a self-control roll to see if I can avoid almost pissing myself, metaphorically speaking.
Of course.
All right. So I can keep my composure for the most part. Of course. It is only good business practice. If he is familiar with Celine, I am very closely affiliated with her at the Church of St. Christina's.
It won't need a roll, but at the mention of a church, Kai will sort of sneer a little bit. It won't be sort of a wince. It won't be sort of a you don't think it would be a bad memory you've resurfaced, but sort of the concept of church is just sort of, it doesn't much like the concept of churches or religion or something along that vein. But he will reply and he'll just say, "I see, right. Well, look, I can get in contact with the man. I can ask him to talk to you, but he's under no obligation to say yes, especially if I can't tell him what it's about in any great detail. What I can do is that I can ask him to get in contact with Celine or someone close to Celine, if you've confided in any of them."
I have not. The full scope is apparently Mr. Forner, while he was still in the city, had a dealing with some kind of dealing. I did not get the details from my contact, and in the interest of confidentiality, I believe, as a Ventrue in good standing, you can appreciate that.
I imagine, just quickly, I imagine Ventrue said in a hushed voice.
Yes, it is.
Okay, Kai will, at the mention of it, Kai will sort of look around quickly, but as we've been moving, presumably, we've entered a street with few people on it before you think of mentioning it. Could you just repeat the last part of the sentence, please?
Oh, in my I found out that at a certain point when Mr. Warner was in the city still, he had a dealing with Mr. Ivanov. As the details I was not privy to. In the interest of confidentiality, I believe my source should remain anonymous, and as a Ventrue in good standing, I believe you can appreciate this.
Yep. Like I said, when you mentioned Ventrue, I'll look around, but that's already happened. Kai will sort of smirk to himself and just says, "Good stand-ins, I think I'm one of them." And he'll smile to himself and carry on walking and just say, "Look, I'll make Mr. Ivanov aware of your situation. I've got your number since you've called me, assuming it wasn't hidden number at that point."
No, it was not. You did. It did show up on your. That's what I'm looking for. Caller ID.
Yeah. And I have got your number, seeing as you called me. So let's just say he'll get in touch in the next few days if he is to acquiesce to your requests.
Stefan Braunfiedler is the name that you can give him. And it is truthful.
Very well. Very well. Well,
though he is not, of course, obliged. I assume he is far above you on our ladder. Tell him I would very much be honored to meet such an honorable man.
Any smile that Kai had at that point sort of fades, as he wouldn't take a comment about Oleg being far above him as a compliment to Oleg more than as a slight to himself. And he'll just sort of look at you and just say, like I said, I'll mention your name and your deal, and he'll get in touch if he wants to.
Very good. At this, Stefan stops, more or less abruptly, turns toward Kai. And your full name before we part.
Kai Jones. And Kai will take your hand, and this time the grip will be, albeit slightly, it will be slightly harder than last time, considering the very much more personal slight rather than the excuse of a taxi driver. That's which is excuse.
Yeah. To this, Stefan will actually attempt to meet that handshake. With one success.
What was the roll? Sorry.
Just strength. Just strength.
Okay. Would you like me to make an opposed strength check?
You may if you wish. You may if you wish.
I might as well. Oh. Well, he doesn't seem to be on form.
Oh,
it's not. Okay. It would not be. He doesn't seem to be on form. You're able to. I'll say with the sort of 4 dots versus 2, regardless of the fact you got more successes, you're able to just meet his grip at this point, and he would probably appreciate that. Whether he'd show it or not is a different story, but he'd appreciate that much at least.
It was quite an honor doing business with somebody of such high acumen. I do very much appreciate that.
Well, if you want acumen, you wait until you meet Oleg.
I look forward to it.
And Kai will, unless you stop him, Kai will give you a nod and start walking in a separate direction, losing himself along the streets of Little Italy.
The nod is returned, and Stefan turns a good 90 degrees and begins heading across the street outside of Little Italy. And as the two part ways for the night, the rain begins to pick up a bit, and so does the wind, and as the scene closes.